the Boston office of the DOR, Tony Rosales, or Jerry Perry for that matter, or Bob Nunes. I don't expect you to pick up a phone and call them, but they are knowledgeable about the problems here and are highly critical. And all that I've said to them is, a strong effort is underway to address all these problems, and we're going to get there.
The credibility issue is if the DOR is the checks and balances and they haven't raised the red flag, I would love to believe that we're on the right track and this is the solution. But I thought the numbers I looked at a year ago was good. I think the board of selectmen believe what we looked at a year ago was good, and 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. So I don't have the warm fuzzy feeling.
Understand. By the way, they have raised the flag. They don't allow the town to set a tax rate. That's their red flag. So if they allow the town to set a tax rate in the next couple of weeks, then that's positive. Then they believe that we're on the right path.
I have this one short question. If we're down to a $387,000 deficit, why are we asking for 505 still?
It's not clear, altogether clear. That was what Deb Wagner said to me. We don't have that confirmed. That's what I was hoping to get confirmed in my call to her today.
So if that gets confirmed before this vote gets taken, will you change that amount?
We,
I would still say that we look for the 505. If this 127 is realistic, it's a one-time, it's just like one-time revenue. It will fix this year or it will apply to this year, but the whole 505 will be a problem next year. So we need to raise the whole 505 to take care of the structural deficit.
Because I don't understand where this 127 comes from now.
I don't understand where it came from either. I wasn't part of the conversation. I just know it was brought up at a selectmen's meeting, and it was to our benefit, to the town's
Yes.
benefit.
How is it perceived to be a one-time?
there were 3 accounting errors. And again, we need to get those confirmed. And I was hoping that that's what would happen today in the phone call. It did not happen because she wrote me an email asking for a bit more information on our Schedule A. And I called, and quite frankly, I was with the department heads most of the day. By the time I called, she was not available by phone. I expect to connect with her tomorrow.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the 385,000 that you stated. If, at the present time, 505,000 will fix the shortfall. And that's supposed to fix it forever, right? So why isn't this 385 going to fix it forever? Why do you need the extra money? What are you going to do with it? Thank you.
Well, 505 is what's needed to fix the deficit. If we were to use 127 to apply to lower the deficit, then that difference needs to be put into stabilization or fall into free cash, because next year we need that full 505 in order to take care of the deficit next year. If we only ask for the 378 now, then come May, we're going to have to ask for whatever the difference between 505 and the 378 is. So, you might as well ask for it all at once, rather than having to ask you for some now and some later.
So if you ask for over the 385, what are you going to do with the extra money? Put it in stabilization fund? Is that what you said?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Why do we need it?
Because it's a one-time error, just like how we got to the 505, right? They're one-time errors, and we're still not sure. I mean, we were told one thing, and the numbers kind of keep changing. The 127 may not be real yet. The DOR is still looking. So that is a one-time thing. So if we do the 300 and something now, then come the May, we're going to be right back to, oh, we're missing 127. If that, they're all one-time problems, right? They're one-time things. That's why it's 505. Yep.
I didn't bring it with me, but I will make it available. We had an analysis done by Fred Aponte, who gave it to the town coordinator much money was used from 2002 to 2013 for stabilization and free cash to cover the operating deficit. When you add all those sums up over the years and you average it out, it's about $500,000 structural deficit. We should not be using free cash, we should not be using stabilization to fund our operating budget. It should come from taxation.
I agree with you.
So if we're going to provide the level of services that we have right now in the town, then we need to increase our tax base $500,000. The warning sign was given to us back in 2009. We had the Department of Revenue come in and do a financial management review. And within that report, one of their recommendations is to not use stabilization. They had 19 or 20 different recommendations that this town, the Board of Selectmen, voted to ignore. They publicly voted to ignore the recommendations of the Department of Revenue. They're the ones who certify our budget, who certify our tax recap and our schedule A.
You opened up a good point there about taxes. It's not a good subject to talk about from some people's point of view, but there are limits to what the elderly in fixed income can pay. So, has anybody given them any thought? You know, you just say we need it, but where are we gonna get the money from?
Well, I don't think I'm the only
That's a
person.
good, no, not just you, I'm not picking on you, Judy, but
I know.
I'm picking on everybody, all the departments that need everything. What do we need? Where do we get the money?
You have to go to town meeting and vote what you can vote.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what you
just
have
tell me
to
where
do.
I'm gonna get the extra cash.
I don't
You have
have
any
any
suggestions?
solutions or any.
Do you have any empathy for the
I
fixed
do
income
have a lot
elderly
of
people?
empathy for people who cannot make it. I have a lot of people, empathy for people who are elderly.
And your
Also for
grandfathers, your
people-
grandmothers, your cousins, your uncles,
Excuse
your
me.
aunts, are gonna put them on the street.
All right.
That's all. That's it.
It's not that's all, that's the crux of the problem.
Somebody else
Okay,
start
so
thinking about it.
people have to figure out what they want for services. If they can't afford the services, then they don't go for it, and the services get cut. We have it all outlined.
Well, my credit
That's
card is
going to-
maxed. I don't get the item.
I
The
understand
town's
that.
credit card has been maxed for about 5 years.
It has been.
Yeah.
Right.
What are we
We've been
doing
living on
about it?
borrowed time.
Just
If
raise
you
taxes.
want- If you
You're
want the
outspending what we
services,
can
you
give you.
gotta pay, raise your taxes. There's no, they go hand in hand. If you want your library to be open, if you want your schools to be funded, if you want the ambulance to show up, you
If
have
you
to
want all
fund
the
those
service, maybe you
services.
should move to Western.
Well, it depends on what kind of community you wanna live in.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right, so you have to figure that out. I'm not gonna tell you how to vote, I'm gonna try to give you the best information I can.
Well, I
I
appreciate
tried giving the best information that I could. Okay? And it was flawed, horribly flawed, the last time we went out for a vote. So people have to make up their minds.
All right.
Yeah, I know there's an article to fund an ambulance on one of the articles that's gonna be at town meeting. And I noticed at town meeting, we had an article to put all the ambulance receipts to one side. Why aren't we taking the money out of that account? Out of the ambulance receipts to fund the ambulance?
The ambulance fund was set up by town meeting to
Yep.
make the ambulance be more self-sustaining. So
Yep.
the receipts that come in go into the ambulance fund, and the expenses that the ambulance incur come out of it.
Oh, so there's nothing,
It's, right, and town meeting voted to do that.
okay, so that account's empty?
Sorry,
That account's empty?
no.
No.
Because they have receipts covered.
They are asking to pay for it out of that account. No, you are asking for the ambulance to come out of that account. Yes, the only thing is, in order for it to come out of that account, the town has to vote for it.
Okay, I thought
Just like we
it
just
was worded,
did,
it was coming out
sewer,
of the
sewer
other.
money, even though the money's allocated, the town still has to vote for it.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that. I thought they were taking it out of
sure a
guys
lot of
are-
people are wondering. I have a question that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, but nobody is really comfortable to ask.
Well, maybe, they
So
must
I'm
have
gonna
changed
shoot
it.
you. With all of this shortfall and the accounting errors and everything else, and you coming to us and asking us for another override, is there an open investigation? Is there going to be a criminal investigation to make sure that nothing happened? Are we gonna be holding somebody accountable for this deficit and this loss of funds? Or are we just gonna sweep this under the carpet also? I think that we should be holding somebody accountable for an error if it can't be reconciled. I mean, the last I looked at accounting, everything had checks and balances. And I think that if you cannot come up with a check and or a balance in regards to a certain dollar amount or a reason why it's not there, I think that an investigation should be done.
I'll respond. Everyone has looked at this issue, and there is no indication at all that anything was done that could be considered illegal. I mean, there's a difference between a mistake and something that is not legal. In this case, there's no evidence that anything illegal was done. What happened was there was this model and whatever data was used, it didn't, the revenues did not add up to the level of spending. It's not that somebody embezzled the funds or anything like that. If I saw something like that, quite frankly, or if the CPA saw something like that, he's got a legal obligation to report it.
No, we've gone through
Pardon?
two accountants, I'm questioning why.
We don't have a CPA now.
Yeah.
We've gone through two accountants and a treasurer, why? Do they know something that hasn't been presented to the public yet?
If they do, I'm not aware. I've done a lot of looking. I have not seen anything legally questionable, let alone illegal. I haven't seen it. I think this is a matter of an error, and I see nothing, I mean, of all the problems in town government, quite frankly, I don't see corruption here. Maybe that's next, but I don't see corruption.
Just one more quick question. We all agree that it would probably be the ideal situation if the override passed and that, but have you done any consideration to what is your backup plan if it's
Yeah.
not passed?
We talked about that.
Oh, yeah?
We talked about that, and that there's, we're doing tax title, whatever is in stabilization. If there is any free cash and cuts, that's really the cuts. That's what would have to be done. There's no way around that. There's not $500,000 sitting somewhere in any one account. So if that comes to $300,000, then there's $200,000 worth of cuts that would need to be made, and they would come out of each of these departments, and that's why we asked for impact statements and for them to be given to you so that you could vote, well, which cuts do you want to do, and that's totally up to the taxpayer. So that's really Plan B.
We went through these impact statements the last time
Yeah.
before the override too, and we were assured that this was going to clean up the whole thing.
And it did, if there wasn't a $500,000 error, that override covered all of that and then some.
There is very definitely a Plan B,
Yes.
and that is to use one-time revenue
Revenue.
and fairly deep cuts in services to patch the balloon for this year.
One-time revenue and the stabilization fund?
It would have to involve the
That is
stabilization
one-time
fund.
revenue.
It would have to involve that,
Yep.
because you can't get to 500,000 with cuts and what we understand may be far less free cash certified than we would like. So it's a combination of those three items. One-time revenues, meaning stabilization and free cash, and very deep cuts in various budgets, and to cover that. And I think the frustration will be with all the pain that's going to be involved with residents not having the services that they expect or are accustomed to. we're back in the soup in July. I mean, we have the same problem, unless there is additional tax revenue, we have the same problem in fiscal 2015, and we've consumed our one-time revenues. Now, to be absolutely truthful about this, selling tax titles, selling town-owned properties will probably replenish. We'll probably get a replenishing of free cash for next year. So, I mean, if the town wants to run on at this level, you can do it probably one more year, and then you have crisis.
I don't think that it's that they want to run at this level, but it's likely that they might have to. And that's that. But would you not try to lower the amount of the override if people didn't seem amenable to voting for that at town meeting? You would lower the
So
amount?
long as everybody understands that you're using one-time revenue, and we've been here since what year, Julie? 2002. So we were just gonna delay that, now we would add that on to 2015's, I have to figure out what year we're in, 2015?
Well,
And then we would do that again, so each time you do that, that's where we
But
are.
if you could redo
But the
part of it this time and part of it next year or
Maybe.
the year after. That's all I'm saying, is some people find that number hard to swallow.
Yep. You're
Next
up.
here from, Dan, go ahead.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dan Hebe, I was the treasurer from last November to March 3rd. Regarding the issue of $505,000 and $120,000 portion of that, that's not a one-time revenue.
Thank you.
The $120,000 portion comes from debt excluded money that was voted as debt excluded on time meeting floor, but was denied debt exclusion treatment by the DOR. I brought this to their attention last year. They refused it on the FY14 budget. They've reconsidered it evidently. I placed it back on the DD1 from year fiscal 15, and evidently they've decided to, according to Mr. Marco, have decided to consider accepting that.
I don't have that confirmed yet, but I think that's
Not
what's in the
confirmed.
works.
I'd like to make it, you had no way of knowing that it was there on last year's. Some of the rest of you should have. Some of the rest of you should have. But the idea is because it's a debt exclusion, the portion of the money that is debt excluded is allowed to allow the tax rate to raise by the equal amount to pay that off. So the tax rate is artificially raised temporarily until the debt is paid, and then it goes back down. So it's not a one-time savings. It's a savings throughout the life of the loan. So to Virginia's question, do we need $505,000? If indeed it was accepted on DD1.
And we would
No,
not.
I say no.
And we would not.
I don't disagree with that at all, and if, again, I connect with the Department of Revenue, I'm going to send out an email blast to everybody that I can find and inform them as to what the Department of Revenue has said and what the ruling is with regard to these three items that were brought to my attention on March 10th, I think, when Deborah Wagner, our representative, visited the town.
We have a lady in the back.
Yes, how much back taxes is owed to the town, and what are we doing to collect on that? If we should be operating on tax revenue?
It's over $700,000. Process, there's two ways that cities and towns have approached back taxes. One is that they undertake themselves to collect. That means letters to those who are tax delinquent several times. That means putting their names in the newspaper. And then the last step is typically you file a petition with the land court in Boston to foreclose the property. It's a long, drawn-out process. But in the end, they either pay or they lose their property. The newest process that perhaps a dozen cities and towns have been using or have used is to simply sell those tax liens to a private company that will pay you the amount. If you owe $10,000, I sell the lien, I get the $10,000 from the private entity, and then it's their obligation to do the collecting. This is really not new, but it's now becoming more widely used and popular.
And they foreclose if they don't get their 10.
That's right. Then where do they make their money? Well, because they pay you all the tax and interest that's due, they make their money by the accumulated interest that accrues as soon as they buy the lien. So they get the money that they paid you back. They get the money back that they paid the town. And then secondly, any interest that accrues, and it would be very expensive, they collect the interest, and that's how they make their profit and operate the company. We are preparing to do that. Now, let's be realistic. There's one large manufacturer who is closed in town and who owes a very substantial amount of back taxes, well over $200,000. We're not going to collect that. They're out of business. Somebody tell me the former owner's in jail. Okay, we're not going to collect that. But what we do is that we take the tax liens that we have, and the Treasurer's Office is updating those liens for any payments that were made, any partial payments that were made. So then we have a lien that it's been liened in the Registry of Deeds in Worcester, and we sell that deed to a private entity. And basically, I'm going to take the whole package and say, here, give me a bid. You have to do a bid process. And the private entity that will bid the highest amount, one would say, all right, we'll take $200,000 worth of your liens, and somebody else said, we'll take $225,000. Well, then I do business with the one who will offer $225,000. Everybody can bid it. I mean, it's open. It's an open process, and we take the best bid. They pay us the taxes immediately. That then goes into the general fund. It'll flush out to free cash next year. It could flush out to free cash this year. If we could get it done by March 31st, we could ask for an update, but it's not realistic. And Jerry Perry told me that when I talked to him 3 weeks ago. He said, you can't get it done by then. But anyway, that'll become some additional free cash for the town in 2015 and perhaps beyond if you don't spend it. And again, they would recommend that you use your free cash, which is one-time, unreliable, use it for one-time purchases. Capital.
One of the other advantages of these people who buy the liens, while they're in the process of doing their collections, they keep the taxes current. So you lose additional revenue because that property is still delinquent, so they keep the taxes current.
People should understand why we haven't pursued that on our own. First of all, it's very time consuming, but it also costs money to do it. And we haven't had the money to put into that in order to allow it to be done in our department here.
You're absolutely right. It does cost a significant amount of money to go through the regular process of filing the lien, harassing the tax delinquent owner, and then eventually going into land court, having an attorney represent the town, fighting the battle in the land court, and eventually getting the title transferred. It's an expensive and drawn-out process. That's why it's not being done.
I just want to let you know that the building, we have probably maybe 15 minutes left.
All right, so I'd like to give the other selectmen an opportunity to talk, and then I'll say something at the end. So I first want to say that people who have specific questions, like the lady in the back, like you that have specific questions, and you have some opinion, email them to the town administrator, townadministrator@1.org, and we will try and research the questions and get you some answers.
Can I just add a question to that? If people are emailing you questions and you're willing to answer them, will those questions and answers be posted on the town website so everyone can see them and not just the person that asked them?
Yes, I don't see a reason why.
No reason not to.
spoke my piece. I'm, you know, I think it's been covered. Again, you know, the same thing. If you have questions, I love talking to all of you, so send me those, and I can try to help you out too.
I would like to echo that. I'd like to thank you for coming,
Yeah.
especially the department heads. I know it's been a long day, we've had a lot of meetings, and to come to yet another meeting where possibilities of cuts, it's more than discouraging. But I do believe that people respond when you're given the information, will step up. That's what I have to hold. So thank you for coming.
And then the only other thing I'd like to say is that, this isn't a